Hi, this is my video response for chapters 8 and 9 of intercultural communications. Um, excuse me. So, for this chapter, for chapter 8, I chose on page 147 these three perpetual filters: selective attention, selective organization, and selective interpretation act as major barriers to effective intercultural communication. Ineffective communication between cultural groups often occurs because we assume that we perceive and interpret other people's behavior in an objective, unbiased manner. The reality, however, is that our perceptions of others are highly subjective, selective, and biased. However, by being more mindful of the biased mindset we carry inside our mental map, perhaps we can catch ourselves more often and encounter a preconceived expectations with flexible adjustments. So I chose that paragraph because what I really think is going on there is she's giving us a way to communicate interculturally. She's giving us the basis for our misconceptions. Um, I totally agree with her on the fact that while we think we're being unbiased and non-judgmental, we really are. Most human nature is to have preconceived notions of these events that are about to take place, whether it be a conversation or an actual situation. So I think that paragraph is very important in understanding and really grasping the fact that we can change what we're going to say. We can change our views. We just have to be willing to accept things for what they are or who they are. Excuse me. And then my next choice was on page 162. I know that most of us know about hate crimes, and we know about stereotyping, and we know that the impact that it has on humans is horrific. But the one thing I really wanted to emphasize and kind of expand on was page 162. Bullying, including cyberbullying, can be associated with hate crimes. So, cyberbullying has become so prevalent that several states are considering laws addressing its perpetrators, and the U.S. government created a website dedicated to this trend. The connection between bullying and target is so seamless that hate speech can often spread more rapidly than its originator ever intended. That's so scary. As a mom, well, and as a human being, but as a mom, I think about my children and how fast things can go viral. Oh, it sickens me. I think we really need to educate our children and explain to them and make them understand, help them understand how important it is to love one another. And if you don't want to use that term, tolerance, just tolerate one another. I think that her putting this in the book really explains how much of an issue it is in our society. Cyberbullying is scary. It's horrific. It can be it can get so out of hand. It spreads like wildfire. And I don't think kids understand, once it's out there, it's out there. It doesn't go away. I would not be opposed to laws against certain things and helping keep those cyber attacks way down, because it's such an easy access for everyone, and we can spread things so quickly and not even mean to spread them. So while I know that most of us do understand that, I think it's just a super, super important point. to expand on. So, anyway, we will continue to chapter 9, where I will maybe find where I was going to read to you. So, on page 176, we're talking about defining conflict styles. So, conflict style is learned within the primary socialization process of one cultural or ethnic group. It also depends highly on one's dispositional or personality traits. For example, an extrovert will tend to use more dominating or expressive style, but an introvert will tend to use a more avoiding and obligating style. By extension, a cultural trait approach means particular cultures on a system-based level would also exhibit certain predominant conflict style tendencies. So, the reason I chose that was because, one, I think the author, what she's really trying to go with there is that the way we address conflict is oftentimes based on our culture and what we've learned, but also goes back to a psychological approach where you have to look at whether or not someone is passive aggressive, they're very introverted, or if they're an extrovert and they're very open, they're very willing to communicate. My brother and I are very opposite. I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert. I'm very straightforward with him. I'm very, here's the deal. And he's very, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear and only the parts that you want to hear. And that's where our miscommunication comes in. That's where we struggle communicating with one another. Why? And, he focuses more on the emotional piece and I focus more on the conflict piece because I want to resolve conflict where he wants to resolve the emotional issue. So I think that's really another... that's one of an important conflict styles you need to understand is it's not necessarily the person's fault, it's part of their personality. And then the last one, on page 184, is the flexible intercultural conflict skills. Flexible intercultural conflict management depends on many factors. One key factor is the ability to apply adaptive conflict communication skills. This section identifies 5 skills that are critical to flexible intercultural conflict management: framework management, mindful listening, cultural empathy, and mindful reframing and adaptive code switching. So the reason I chose that paragraph, and she pretty much just summarizes what she's going to talk about there, but the reason I chose that is because I think we all need to learn to be flexible. We all need to learn these skills in order to be able to adapt and resolve issues that are going to happen, because issues are going to come up. Conflicts happen. It's part of life, whether it's an in-group conflict or an out-group conflict, it doesn't matter. We can take these skills and we can apply them to our daily lives. And it's really important that we understand how to use them, and especially if we're going to try and communicate interculturally. And even in America, it's amazing how many different cultures are here. I went to Seattle and we were in the Children's Hospital for a while, and the amount of culture differences that I saw was just astounding. I mean, I was the minority, and it was quite a struggle for me to empathize with it. Well, not empathize, but to communicate and try and understand. I wanted to empathize with them, but I couldn't, because I couldn't grasp what was going on. And the way they cope with things are very different. My daughter shared a room with a Hispanic family, and for them, their styles are so different. they bring their entire family in, and they're loud and they're happy and which is great. But then there's us, and it's just me and my daughter, and we're quiet and we're resting and we're trying, So it's just very different. So I think learning these skills to avoid conflict or to address conflict are very, very important. All right, so that is my chapters 8 and 9. I'll see you guys later.